Bison are back home after surviving their first real test of the season, beating Youngstown State 27-24 in overtime, marking an impressive 12 wins in a row on the road. A career day for Easton Stick on the ground, showcasing yet another weapon for an explosive NDSU offense. But now the Bison continue the conference grind, going up against the high-powered offense of Western Illinois. Another young linebacker stepping up for a top-ranked Code Green defense after another blow to the injury-plagued group. The secondary will look to step up to the challenge against one of the leading receivers in the FCS. It's the Bison and the Leathernecks on game day in Fargo.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
You know, Alex, I don't know who's more pumped up, Jensen in that clip or you over here rocking the air guitar.
We're going to see two very different sides of Nate Jensen today. That's what we saw, the very intense side right there to open the show, and then we'll see a little bit more of a
true,
relaxed
authentic
side.
Jensen.
That's for sure. Hello and welcome into the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. I am Alex Egan. She is Beth Houle. We are excited for another Saturday of football, another Missouri Valley Conference game. Another
huge game.
Top 10 matchup.
Yeah, this is another top 10 matchup. It's going to be highly contested. Once again, everybody's been talking about how much more they want, more competition. They want that next level. They want to see those Missouri Valley football games that everybody's used to. Well, we're going to get that, and we're going to get that inside the Fargo Dome today.
That should be fun. Before we get to today's game, though, we've got to talk a little bit about, let's go down memory lane a little bit. We're going to do a little throwback Saturday, if you will. And this is from last year in Western Illinois. And how can you not remember that hit from M.J. Stumpf? That was a crucial play.
Yeah, a 4th and goal stop here. Just huge, laying it all on line. You see him kind of lay there on the turf there for a second. Huge game, huge momentum swing, big play for the Bison as they went on to win this one in 2016. M.J. Stumpf, it was kind of a series of big stops that he made in a couple of huge games there for the Bison as he solidified himself as really one of the best. So
that was a really cool memory against Western Illinois, but there's a really, really cool memory from the Fargo Dome against Western Illinois, and that is one that will live on in Bison lore for forever, and it is courtesy of Zach Vraa, and this play was unbelievable.
Easton Stick in his first career start inside the Fargo Dome, first possession here, big play to Zach Vraa, and he just makes a linebacker look really, really foolish.
So silly, so silly. Look at this, perfectly thrown ball. Zach Vraa, I mean, maybe a little underthrown, I guess, but Zach Vraa goes over the top of that linebacker who had no idea that the ball was coming his way for one of the greatest catches made in the Fargo Dome.
Zach Vraa had a lot of really great catches, but that goes down.
That one certainly is good. So maybe we'll see some more memories being made today that we can talk about next year about some big plays against Western Illinois.
Always the potential.
It's a fun one out there at the Fargo Dome. Let's bring in the third member of our pregame show, and that is Ryan Gellner, who is in the dome as we speak. Ryan, how's it going?
Hey guys, and Riggs Baxter, that linebacker number 58 for Western Illinois, he's a starting linebacker on this year's football team. So not only did Zach Vraa go over top of him, but Riggs maybe gets a chance. I should have asked him when I saw him in the pregame warmups if he remembers that play. He'll get a chance to go up against the Bison once again. Again, he's number 58, the starting linebacker here for Western Illinois. This, as you guys mentioned, has all the makings of a 4-quarter football game. It's a top 10 matchup in the FCS, and this Western Illinois football team is pretty good. They're pretty balanced offensively. They can run it quarterback. They can run it running back. Max Norris, the running back, averages 6 yards a carry. They've got a phenomenal wide receiver we'll talk about in just a little bit. That's Jalen Acklin, who makes all sorts of big plays. And Sean McGuire, the quarterback. Sean McGuire, really good at playing quarterback. He was effective against North Dakota State last year with his legs, and the Bison need to get after number 18 today. They need to keep their eyes straight. We'll talk to Chris Kleiman about that in a little bit. And then defensively, they are led by a kid named Brett Taylor, whose numbers are off the chart. We'll talk about that, and I do mean off the chart, guys. We'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. Things just getting fired up here, though, inside the Fargo Dome. Back to you.
No, Ryan, we're just about to get talking about Easton Stick and the run performance that he had last week at Youngstown State. Do you see a big potential for him to have that run game, or is it going to have to be a whole lot more balanced against Western this week?
Yeah, I think a little bit more from Easton Stick from his arm today. I get the feeling the Bison want to run it today, but not necessarily the quarterback run. I think Youngstown State, the way they played, was a lot like North Dakota State. We all know that North Dakota State, you can run the football with the quarterback against North Dakota State. North Dakota State last week could run the football with the quarterback against Youngstown. I just don't see Easton Stick running the football a lot today because I don't think that's in the game plan, guys.
All right, thank you very much, Ryan. We'll be checking in with you throughout the rest of the show out there from the Fargo Dome. The Bison spent 2 weeks away from the Dome, and now they are back home.
Yeah, this is going to be a big one. I think this one is finally, everybody's been asking, like I said, for that tough contest, but this one's going to come down to the fans playing a factor this week. I think we're going to have to see the fans engage more than ever, and they're going to have to create that hostile environment to really get after the Leathernecks.
You are doing a really great job of foreshadowing. You've done that a couple times now. You said we were going to talk about Easton Stick running the football. One of my big things for today
I haven't even been here to know this.
Is talking about how the fans might play a difference in this game. So that's a great job. Doing some good job teasing. Let's get into.
They pay me.
They pay you? Okay. Let's get into what we were going to talk about. Easton Stick running the football, and he did it very effectively against Youngstown State. I said last week that Easton Stick was going to rush for over 100 yards. I made sure to thank Coach Kleiman and Easton for not making me look like a fool. An 80-yard touchdown run helps. An 80-yard touchdown run helps.
It does. Yeah, it certainly does. Well, I mean, it was crucial to last week's game plan, but I think Ryan Gellner's on the right frame of thought there. I don't think that he will have to play as big of a role. I don't think he maybe even can play as big of a role with the defense that Western Illinois plays against them.
Yeah, this was certainly something that we heard Easton talk about, and he said it was in the game plan. It's always in the game plan, the quarterback run game, but it was especially in the game plan against Youngstown because of the man coverage that they play on the outside. It leaves the quarterback unaccounted for, and so he was able to.
And let's not forget, our backup quarterback is hurt. So this is something that we necessarily, as much fun as it is to watch Easton lay it out there and play in this run game, he's also somebody we really want to protect because not only are we down a backup quarterback, but there's also only 2 running backs at this point in this season. And
we'll talk about some of the injuries that the Bison are facing. Again, foreshadowing. You're doing a great job of that. We got a chance to catch up with Easton, and we asked him, hey, what was it like? You got to run the football again. And here's what he had to say.
It's a ton of fun to run around out there, and it's even more fun when you see guys like Tanner Volson running downfield and Sean and Dez, 80 yards downfield making huge blocks. And so, credit to those guys because, that's how big plays happen. It's, the little things that maybe people don't see all the time that spring those things.
And definitely some of the downfield blocking is what sprung that 80-yard touchdown run. There was a few crucial blocks thrown by some of the wide receivers, and that is where you get those big plays from. It's those little details.
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, when you look at it from what Easton Stick has been able to do to Western Illinois in the past. Now, he's played Western Illinois 2 separate times. He rushed for 131 yards combined in those 2 performances with 15 carries. Inverted those numbers. 15 carries combined in 2 previous performances against Western Illinois.
Yeah, so
it's a tough team.
It may not be, and they've got a new look defense. We'll talk about their defense and their new look as well. We've got so much more to come here on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football pregame show.
I've given you a little preview of what to expect.
Yeah, if you were paying attention, you know exactly what we're going to get to. Next, we're going to learn a little bit more about the Leathernecks, and we'll catch up with our play-by-play guy. That is still to come here on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football pregame show. There they are, the Fightin' Leathernecks, making their way into the Fargo Dome, fresh from their trip from Macomb, Illinois. You've been to Macomb.
Yeah, that's a tough trip.
That's not an easy trip to get to.
Yeah, it's no wonder they play so well on the road, though. I mean, they have a tough atmosphere at home. They've had an outstanding season so far this year, 5-1, only lost to South Dakota, and now they're rolling into a place that's really fun to play. I know it's tough, but this has to be fun for a college football player. This is everything you look for in an atmosphere. So just maybe the guys rooting for you.
Yeah, I've never played in a big-time college football environment, but I've been to the Fargo Dome during those big environments, and you feel it. You feel it a little bit. That has to get you fired up as a team. Let's learn a little bit more about the Leathernecks. Ryan Gellner catching up with their voice of the Leathernecks.
Thank you, guys. Back down on the field, and Scott Kornberg from the Leatherneck Sports Network joins us now in his 4th year calling play-by-play for the Leathernecks. And, boy, this is a team that really plays well and gets better on the road. You've played well on the road.
Absolutely, Ryan, and thank you for having me on. It's weird, right? Teams normally do better on their home turf, but for whatever reason, be it routine, be it just team personality, Western Illinois has played significantly better on the road in Charlie Fisher's tenure, and that's what makes this game so interesting today. Two really phenomenal teams.
Let's start talking about the offensive side of the ball, and Jalen Acklin is your big play guy. And it's funny because his numbers a year ago, not so good. In fact, his career numbers not so good, but he has been a go-to guy this year.
Absolutely, and it's kind of funny because to people like you and me, he was a guy that we were like, well, he's kind of a question mark as the #1 wide receiver. 21 career catches coming in, something like 300 yards. And this year he's over 40, he's near 800 yards. So to the coaches, to the players, they, believe it or not, actually saw this coming. He had an outstanding offseason in terms of getting in shape. He lost 25 pounds of fat, kind of gained back 5 pounds of muscle, and so much quicker, so much speed in and out of cuts. He's always had great hands. So to those guys who saw him over the winter, into the spring, into the summer, they saw something like this coming. But to have an All-American campaign like this so far, truly amazing.
If NDSU has had problems this year defensively, it has been on running quarterbacks, and Sean McGuire proved last year against NDSU he can run the football.
He can. Obviously, they want him to be in the pocket, but their whole offense is predicated on being able to run the football first with Steve McShane and Max Norris, and then using that to get play action, quarterback rollouts. And if nothing is there on those rollouts, or sometimes they'll do quarterback draws from the shotgun just straight through the middle, he's capable of maybe not taking it to the house from 80 yards away, but he's capable of getting 10 to 15 yards, as the Bison saw last year. But he's really taken some steps forward throwing the ball this season as well.
As important as this game is for NDSU to stay on top of the league, it's just as important and probably a bigger game for the Leathernecks, who are on everybody's heels.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big challenge. Great opportunity for Western Illinois today. They're ranked in the top 10 right now. Obviously, everybody knows how good North Dakota State is. That's not a secret at all. So for Western Illinois, it's a chance to kind of prove themselves. This is a team that's very senior-laden. Obviously, they've got guys who are playing at a very, very high level, like McGuire, like Acklin, like Brett Taylor, like Colin Saunders. This is a chance for them to come on the road, get a signature win, and hopefully keep moving their season forward and get to 6-1 for the first time since 2002.
Scott, we really appreciate it. Good luck today. Welcome to Fargo.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Ryan.
All right, guys, it is going to be a 4-quarter football game. We look forward to that. Now back to you.
All right, thank you, Ryan. This is definitely going to be a game between, just like what we saw last week, really. It's two really good football teams.
A very different football team, but equally as competitive and just as well stacked. You kind of heard them talk about it there a little bit. This team has experience. A lot of guys on this team were here a couple of years ago even, and remember a less than ideal outcome. What was it,
59-7.
59-7 in 2015 at the Fargo Dome. So some of those guys remember that experience. Now, last year they played a much closer game. This team, though, they've got a strong 3-4 defense. They pressure the quarterback. They have big play potential, and they can get after the ball as well.
So you saw it there. 44, that's a guy that you're going to want to keep your eye on, and 17 is the other guy you want to keep your eye on. This is what they do. They just make big play after big play.
That's right, yeah. Jalen Acklin, number 17, he's the wide receiver. 22 plays of 20-plus yards this season.
And that's insane.
Alone. And he's not somebody you're going to remember from last year. He's not somebody you're going to remember from a couple years ago. He was kind of a meh player, to put it nicely. But this year he's really exploded, just shy of 1,000 yards, really, at this point in the season already.
He's a big game away from 1,000 yards, and they've only played 6 games. So that's really impressive. McGuire and Acklin seem to have something really good going right now.
Yeah, and McGuire just continues to find his stride. Again, just a junior quarterback, a lot like what we're seeing from Easton Stick, a guy coming into his own, finding his rhythm, and having his best season yet in just his junior season.
And I think that the Bison would be well suited to keep their eyes wherever 17 is, make sure that they are paying attention to where he is. And there's, man, they're
good old Brett
really
Taylor
good.
right there.
They're just really good football team from Western Illinois, 4-0 on the road. They're playing 7 road games this year, just 4 home games. That's not ideal.
No, but for anybody, they can do it. And they beat
Yeah.
Coastal Carolina on the road. That's a big FBS win now for them. So it's an FBS win. But their only loss so far is to South Dakota. And I think we've all now, if you've paid any attention to the Missouri Valley, you know that that's that's not a bad loss. That South Dakota is going to be a contender here at the end.
Yeah, it's NDSU and South Dakota.
Yeah, and another big part that you have to pay attention to on this defense isn't just Brett Taylor. That's their middle linebacker. He's going to be really steering this defense, and he's done a really nice job as they've brought in a new defensive coordinator who's taken it to new heights. They really get after the quarterback in new ways, but beyond that, they also have a really good secondary that's gotten after it in interceptions this year. They force the turnovers, they get the turnovers. They're second in the Missouri Valley right now, behind North Dakota State. They're at a +11 right now. And
NDSU's at +12, so that should tell you just how good that defense is playing. They're matching Code Green, and the turnover margin, that's a pretty good standard to be meeting right there.
Yeah.
So like we said, the Bison have been away from the Fargo Dome for a couple weeks, and even though it was a little gloomy in Fargo this morning, you can bet that Bison Nation was out in full force in the tailgate lot, and that is where we find Mike Morkin, who's ready to give away a few gift cards. Mike.
All right, thank you so much. We got a crowd here, a large crowd here for our first tailgate trivia of the day, and you have to be of age to play, so but you don't have to be of age to get on TV, okay? So we'll get you all on TV. The people that are of age are ready to play, and Megan, where are you from?
Harwood.
You're from Harwood. And Brianna, where are you from?
Fargo.
Okay, so here we go. Megan, ready? This is for an opportunity to win either a $50 gift card from the Lucky's 13 pub or the True Blue Social Club. Okay, here we go. Our first question. Who holds the NDSU Bison record for most rushing yards in a season with 1,920 yards? Is it John Crockett or Tyler Roll? John Crockett or Tyler Roll? Anybody know? What is it?
John Crockett.
Okay, he thinks John Crockett. What do you think?
I'll agree with Ryan.
Ryan, you're correct, and Megan, you are correct. Right, way to go. Ryan, unfortunately, you don't win the prize, but Megan, you do. Lucky's 13, $50 gift card to the pub. Thank you very much. All right, that was easy enough.
Yeah.
Okay, Brianna, you know how the game is played. Here we go.
Okay.
Who holds the record for the most career starts by a Bison player with 61? Is it Christian Dudzik or Phil Hansen? Christian Dudzik or Phil Hansen? Do you know?
What do you think?
Christian Dudzik.
Christian Dudzik. What's your name?
Brooklyn.
Okay, and what did you say?
Christian.
She said Christian. What are you going with?
I gotta agree with Brooklyn. Christian Dudzik.
Christian Dudzik is the correct answer. So congratulations, and you win a $50 gift card to the True Blue Social Club. Way to go, ladies. Way to go, kids. That's how easy it is. And we'll be back with another trivia later on in the show, so stick around.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. Still much more to come here on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football pregame show. We're getting you set for the Bison and the Leathernecks. Welcome back to our Fargo studios, the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football pregame show. We were fortunate going into the Youngstown State game that we weren't talking about another big injury. We're not so fortunate this week. We'll tell you about that in just a few moments. But first, let's go back out to the Dome. Ryan Geldner standing by for our Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine injury report. Ryan?
Yeah, thank you, guys. Back down on Gate City Bank Field, and it is time for the Sanford Health Update, and Dr. Bruce Pyatt joins us again. And Dr. Pyatt, let's talk this week a little bit about when to go in, and let's start just on ankles. So if I've turned an ankle at practice or in a game, what are the warning signs I need to look at? When can I treat it home? When do I need to come in and see a doc?
Well, what a common injury. I mean, I don't think you can talk to anybody who hasn't rolled their ankle or done something with it at some point in their life. So it really applies to all of us. You know, the things that you're going to want to watch for, the hallmarks of it are going to be pain that's just intractable and uncontrollable, so that just getting off of it and giving it a little bit of time doesn't relieve the symptoms of pain. Then you got to be worried about that. Significant amount of swelling is always going to be worrisome to us. So if you don't see a lot of swelling, it's unlikely to be any kind of a major injury with it. But if you have that, you can't really rule out a significant problem without further evaluation. And then the other really kind of big thing with it is if you palpate around the ankle itself and it's tender when you push on the bone structures, the real firm structures on the inner or outer part of the ankle, that's more worrisome for a fracture associated with it.
How about when you do roll that ankle or twist that ankle, and sometimes you hear about the pop? I heard a pop, I felt a pop. Does that mean you should see a doc right away, or can that be if and or but, I guess?
I mean, when you hear or feel a pop, something's been injured of significance, and it could be nothing more than one of the soft tissues like a ligament, and that's the most common thing that happens. You roll your ankle where you kind of roll it under from the outside. That's the real common injury that we see, and 80% of those are going to heal up and do just fine. So even if you feel or hear that pop, unless you develop the other signs of significant tenderness, significant swelling, those kind of things, it's unlikely to be a major problem. And most things that are minimal are going to calm down quickly. So if you don't see your symptoms going away over the first day or two, there's never a wrong time to go in and get it evaluated. We never mind. I think the only patients you'll talk to who say, geez, I wish I would have come in sooner, are the ones who waited and had a significant problem. But we never mind ruling out a big problem.
In my day, it was the RICE method, rest, ice, compression, and elevate, right? Still doing that today?
That's still the same thing. Some things never change, and so you can't go wrong with that. You'll read some other stuff out there of people more recently kind of getting away of some of those things, but there's no science behind changing that. And so I would still hold to that 100%. You get it up, get it elevated, get a little compression on it, some ice on it, and that's really going to help you to keep swelling down, and for whatever the injury is, that's going to help the recovery.
All right, sounds good. So maybe go with that gut feeling. If you feel like you should go in and get it checked out. Bruce, I appreciate it. We'll continue this probably next week.
Sounds good. Happy to do it.
All right, that is Bruce Pyatt from the sideline. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Doc. As we look at the injury report today, and it's kind of a full list. We haven't had a full list in a while. Matt Plank still kind of dealing with a leg issue that might see him get in there today if he's called upon. The problem is,
I think he's still kind of the emergency guy.
Yeah, he might be called upon because of that bottom name there is Chris Borden. He was the reason that we got to see Jabril Cox last week. He injured his knee in the game against Youngstown State, and those other two running backs. That's not a good sign.
Yeah, that's a little bit concerning when you're looking at the game, especially this weekend, when we talk about how limited that quarterback run game can be against Western Illinois. Well, now you're down to two running backs. Granted, the two best running backs in the Missouri Valley, quite arguably.
I would take those two running backs over pretty much anybody that they have.
And not to mention, you've also got probably the deepest linebacker fullback staff in the Missouri Valley as well. And so, you know, those guys are also probably able, you look at like a Brock Robbins, somebody who we were familiar with from his high school days here in the area, played a lot of that fullback position. And so he's somebody that they should be able, if in need, at least create a diversion, throw another guy back there, somebody who can certainly catch the ball as well.
I certainly don't see the Bison offense slowing down any just with the two running backs that they have in Easton Stick and, like you said, all of the fullbacks and the tight ends that they have. That is certainly not a case for Courtney Messingham. He's got plenty of weapons at his disposal, I'm sure. Speaking of one of those guys who is a weapon for the Bison, who I'm very curious about this. He's not getting really any national love, and that is Easton Stick. Let's take a look at his numbers, because
so underrated.
He's not getting really any national love. You know, he's not being looked at for the player of the year. I mean, the kid's a junior, and the number that stands out to me, 12 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He's not turning the ball over.
Yeah, still doesn't have an interception. He's been incredibly impressive this year. I am so impressed with Easton Stick. I am 100% on the Easton Stick bandwagon. He's been fun to watch. He's dissecting defenses. He's making calls and changes at the line of scrimmage, just like we used to see a certain guy who used to start before him do. And you're starting to see Easton Stick take over and really become that all-around leader on this Bison offense. And it's been so much fun to see. Don't even get me started on those Missouri Valley Player of the Week rankings, let alone any national attention. How does Easton Stick get 0 love? How? I don't mean to yell. I know you don't like it when I yell. But how does he not get any attention?
I don't think it works better when you're quiet about it either. I'm with you on that. I don't understand why he's not being looked
really
at
the
for
entire NDSU team.
And
I feel like they get so overlooked.
And, you know, I think that might be the product of it. It's that the team is so good that any individual is not going to stand out on the team because the team is so good. They are their own downside.
They're the best.
That is true. It's it's hard to be the king.
He's outstanding.
He is great,
He's just been playing great this year, and I'm looking forward to another great game today.
15 total touchdowns for him, and that is super impressive through 6 games. 12 through the air, 3 on the ground. We saw him running last week. We're not expecting too much of that this week. 2 of the guys that he throws to pretty frequently are on our Heard This One this week. Take a look.
You get me on Google, yeah. Why did the octopus beat the shark in a fight?
I don't know.
Because it was well armed.
What do you call 4 bullfighters in quicksand?
I don't know.
Cuatro Cinco.
I didn't laugh. Why did the scarecrow win an award?
I don't know.
Because he was outstanding in his field.
How are a chicken and a grape alike?
I don't know.
They're both purple, except for the chicken.
Well played.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
It is a top 10 matchup inside the Fargo Dome, and welcome inside the Fargo Dome, where it is number 10 Western Illinois and number 2 North Dakota State. Lee Timmerman, Brian Sean join us for RG's Keys. Let's get right into the keys for this football game, what we think could be a difference in today's football game. The first key is find Acklin, and what that means is we are talking about Jalen Atkin, and this is a pretty phenomenal story. He's a 6'2", 190-pound senior receiver for the Leathernecks. He entered the season with 21 career catches, 364 career yards. So why is that on top of the keys today? Well, in his first 6 games this year, 46 catches, 828 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Bichon, the Bison, they need to know where number 17 is.
You know, it's amazing the transformation this guy's made. And when you talk to the people at Western Illinois, they say the biggest difference, well, he dropped about 20 pounds of fat in the offseason and added 5 pounds of muscle. Just attacked the offseason process. And that's why this guy is one of the top receivers in the country. He's averaging 138 yards a game receiving. He's a guy they love to get into space. They line him up everywhere. And North Dakota State's going to have to be aware where number 17 matches up. There is no doubt that he is where Western Illinois wants to go with the football, and Sean McGuire looks his way often.
Yeah, and they don't always just throw it to him. LT, he's got 10 rushes, 195 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He'll get it done on the ground as well.
Yeah, but he doesn't do it out of a tailback situation. They'll do it out of a jet sweep motion, which is, in Western does it different than most teams do. They will run the jet up underneath center, not out of a shotgun or a pistol formation, so that makes it real difficult on the defense because that jet sweep gets on you so fast. The Bison will have to fit the run very quickly and hit the holes hard, and they can't miss, otherwise it's a big play.
Speaking of defense, the Bison missed some tackles a week ago at Youngstown State, specifically on the quarterback last week, and it's something they need to get better on. Back into the keys, that is, it is run feet on contact, and what that means is get to the football, get the first defender to the football, because Sean McGuire, the quarterback this week, he can run it as well. But the Bison, they don't tackle in practice. They run what's called FUD, so they need to concentrate on how to get better tackling the football when they don't even do it in practice. They need to run their feet on contact, make sure the first defender doesn't miss. Brian, the Bison have to slow the ball carrier down and really get to the football with everybody else.
Well, and Matt Entz thought they tackled better last week than they did the previous week against Indiana State. Thought they missed too many tackles. The one area I think Matt Entz was concerned is they had 8 scrambles, Youngstown State, last week on design pass plays, and the quarterback was able to gain 68 yards on those scrambles. So when they get their opportunities to take ball carriers down, they got to bring them down right away and not allow that play to continue to develop, continue to go, and create other opportunities down the field.
And then offensively, our final key is throw it around. Easton Stick is one of the best quarterbacks, well, in the FCS. And today, it might open up for him because Western Illinois, they're good everywhere on both sides of the ball, but they do give up some passing yards. Lee, they're ranked 86th in the country against the pass. That could set up Easton for a big day.
Well, the Bison do not want Stick to run the ball or have to run the ball like he did last week. We figured he would have to run it against Youngstown, and they certainly did, and he did a good job of that. An interesting thing about the Youngstown game, though, is that in first and second downs, the Bison threw it 12 times and completed 11 of those 12. So Coach Messingham told us this week that he thinks he has to be just keep that in the forefront of his mind, of maybe keep Western guessing a little bit more, especially on first down, not just run it all the time, mix in the pass early in a possession.
It is a top 10 matchup here in the Fargo Dome, and what makes it interesting is that in games of top 10 matchups, usually turnovers can be a big difference. Neither team turns the ball over.
Well, they don't turn it over, and they're really good at taking it away, and I think that's what makes it so impressive. I mean, North Dakota State is third in the country in turnover margin at +12. Western Illinois is number 4 in the country at +11. Both teams have done a really good job taking the football away. North Dakota State, most of their turnovers through interceptions, in particular by the 3 safeties, James Hendricks, Robbie Grimsley, and Trey Dempsey. We'll see if they can confuse Sean McGuire, who likes to take a lot of shots deep. I mean a lot of shots deep, and see if those safeties can come up with a couple of picks today.
North Dakota State has been so good at home in this building over the years. Western Illinois happens to play really well on the road, Lee.
Yeah, they're 4-0 so far on the road, and let me see, what team in the Division I era has a winning record in this building? One of those strange but true stats. It is Western Illinois. They're 2-1 here at the Fargo Dome. I don't know. I don't think Western can physically handle both the offensive and defensive lines that NDSU has. If they can overcome that with some of those big plays that Bichon's coming at, I think we might have a four-quarter game today.
And that's the thing. I think North Dakota State wants to run the football today. They want to run it with their running backs, guys. And if those running backs can be effective, that offensive line you talked about can be the difference in this football game. Side note, Western Illinois has practiced with crowd noise all week. They put up speakers right behind the offensive linemen. They blasted them to the point where they were getting complaints on campus all week long. So they're ready for this one. North Dakota State is ready for this one, and the crowd's starting to file in and be ready for this one as well. We're ready for it as well. These guys will have the call of today's game not long from right now. Kickoff about 23 minutes away from the Fargo Dome. This is the KVLY, KFYR Bison Radio Network, and this is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison pregame show. Back to the Fargo Dome where it's filling up. Conference football around the corner right here. Stay with us. It is a beautiful day for football, both outside and inside. Some of the Bison fans getting ready for this one, a top 10 matchup inside the Fargo Dome. And hi, and welcome back to the Fargo Dome, where North Dakota State is back in the friendly confines here indoors. It was a coming out party last week for North Dakota State University. Freshman linebacker Jabril Cox, who headlines this week's Herdline News. Jabril Cox had a day, seemed to make every big tackle last week. He had 2 solo sacks, a big tackle for a loss, and a total of 8 tackles, 6 of them after taking over for the injured Chris Board. For his efforts, Jabril Cox named the newcomer of the week for the Missouri Valley. More honors coming in. This time, another game-winning kick for Cam Peterson, who you see warming up there. A 36-yarder in overtime. It's the second career game winner for Peterson, who also knocked in a 19-yarder just before the half. Cam has hit 6 straight field goals for the Bison, and he is the Missouri Valley Football Conference Special Teamer of the Week. And a game like this could come down to field goals for North Dakota State and for Western Illinois. It could be a good football game all the way through 4 quarters, which Bison fans have been waiting for in this building. It's been a while since they've seen a 4-quarter football game, in fact, dating back to the playoffs last year. This is going to be a good matchup. We had a chance to catch up with head coach Chris Kleiman in the hallway just outside the locker room to talk about what a good matchup this one could be today. Chris, here's a team that comes in and haven't lost a game on the road. They're pretty successful in the Fargo Dome. A lot of things they have going make them pretty scary.
Yeah, they're 4-0 on the road, and it's tough to win on the road, and they've done it, and so they're going to have confidence coming in here. Not only that, but it's a veteran team, a lot of juniors and seniors, so many of them played against us last year in a really tight four-quarter game, and a number of those guys were in the Fargo Dome a couple years ago, and I think they want to make sure and get that one revenge.
They're pretty split offensively, run and pass, and they can be dangerous both with the quarterback run, the running back, and then they've got a heck of a playmaking receiver.
Yeah, they're the most complete offense we've seen to date as far as having the ability to do both. The quarterback's a dual threat guy, and he's a big guy. I'm so impressed with him because he's a great competitor. He can throw the ball and beat you. He can move it around with his feet and beat you, and then they have explosive, skilled players.
Let's talk about the quarterback run game. I know you've concentrated on tackling this week, but talk to me about the guys on the backside of your defense. Their eyes, as you say, have to be right.
Yeah, they really do, because they're going to run a lot of verticals out of some different jet sweep reads and stuff, and they're a big jet sweep team, and similar to what we've done in the past with Chase Morlock, getting guys out on what we call wheel routes and stuff. They do a tremendous job, so we have to be able to get some pressure on the passer, and we have to be able to get some hits on him, and that's what people haven't been able to do, is haven't been able to hit the quarterback.
Finally, Coach, they do give up some yards through the air. Easton's been phenomenal so far this year. I would expect him to have a pretty good game again.
Yeah, I do, and they're a 3-4 team, but then they're also a 4-3 team, and that's the big thing for us, is which one are they going to, kind of hang their hat on. If it's a 3-down team, expect it to be a real big blitz fest. If it's a 4-down team, then they're going to play more coverage, and we've got to be able to decipher those things quickly and make our adjustments.
As always, best of luck today.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, lots of good matchups across the country, but this one going to be a big one for two reasons. One, North Dakota State wants to stay on top of this conference race. Their goal always to win the Missouri Valley Football Conference. The other reason is Western Illinois is still in this race. They want to climb on the heels of North Dakota State, South Dakota, and keep pace with all these teams. A win today for Western Illinois would be a big deal, and they are playing good football, this Western Illinois team is playing good football. They've got some playmakers. The names you need to know: Jalen Atkin, their wide receiver, is absolutely phenomenal. You heard Brian Shawn talk about his big play ability down the football field. He'll also run it around the end. Watch out for Jalen Ackland today. The Bison will need to know where he's out. Max Norris, their lead running back, averages about 6 yards a pop, so they can get it done running the football. Watch out for him. And then Sean McGuire, a guy that North Dakota State played against last year and did pretty well against the Bison last year. He's had a phenomenal season and leads this team very well. And then on defense, know the name Brett Taylor. We talked about him. I'll talk about him actually in the next segment, but Brett Taylor has some phenomenal numbers. The biggest number, he averages 14.5 tackles a football game. Watch for number 44 for the Leathernecks today. He is a good one. Game time just around the corner here on the KVLY KFYR Bison Television Network. This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison pregame show. We go back to our Fargo studios as we get ready for football in the Missouri Valley.
Just over 11 minutes before we get you out to the Fargo Dome for kickoff between NDSU and Western Illinois on our Coors Light countdown clock. Let's take a look at our Bobcat heavy lifting report, and the player that we're picking on today is Colin Connor, the starting.
Not picking on.
We're spotlighting him. Starting left tackle for NDSU, and the three things that I put in here are all kind of the same thing, really. Keep Easton clean, because Western likes to pressure the quarterback. Stop that rush that they have, and it's going to come from multiple directions, and really we're singling out Colin here. We could be talking about all 5 of the guys on the front line, and then you got to move the line, got to make some hay for the running backs and make their lives a little bit easier as we take a look at Connor warming up.
Yeah, we pick Colin Connor here because he's set to start at that left tackle position. And so when we're talking about those sacks coming, that pass rush coming on Easton's blind side, that's the focus of this one. And we've talked about it. You've heard us say it from the guys out at the Dome to us back here in the studio. This Western Illinois defense is a very different defense than what we saw last year, which was already really good. But they've got a new defensive coordinator in there, and they've got Brett Taylor, their Mike linebacker, who is leading the nation in solo tackles, tackles for loss. He's just fun to watch, and he's a leader for that Buck Buchanan Award, which Bison fans will remember Kyle Emanuel won a few years back, now having a successful career in the NFL. So he's that caliber of player. He finished 7th in the voting last year for that as a junior.
That's impressive.
And is now back as a senior and really, really expecting to get that award.
He's got like 87 tackles or something. That's a season right
there.
Yeah,
his numbers are, we've said this before about Bison players in the past when we talk about video game-like numbers.
Yeah.
That's what Brett Taylor has.
Well, there's a guy that the Bison are really excited about on their defensive unit who got his first real chance to play last week against Youngstown State. And it's a dude that we've been talking about for a long time, since spring ball, really, since he got onto campus as a freshman. He's now a redshirt freshman, and that is Jabril Cox. And my goodness, did he show up in a big way last week at Youngstown State.
Yeah, he kind of had his coming out party against Mississippi Valley State in that first game of the season. And I told everybody, temper your expectations here a little bit. Mississippi Valley State is a much different team than what we would see moving forward, specifically against Eastern Washington. Eagles were not what I expected them to be. I'm not alone in that. But we really didn't have to see much Jabril Cox in those big game moments. He played a lot of special teams, got his confidence up, and that was a big part of what he talked to us about this week, was he was able to build his confidence.
I like that play right there because it shows how fast he is. He's able to catch up to a quarterback that's scrambling out of the pocket and turn what could be a big gain into a minimal gain. And that's what I think is so impressive. We caught up with Jabril earlier this week, and his coaches are telling him, look, this is just the beginning.
They just want me to keep adding on to this. I know this is just a little part of what I did, and I have to just keep building and get better from here.
I think sky's the limit for this guy. Honestly, it was so much fun to see him play out at Youngstown last week, and he's going to see a little bit more playing time today with Chris Board being out injured. Man, that linebacker group has been just decimated by injury.
But you
Fortunately,
wouldn't know.
Nick's back.
But you wouldn't know. They continue to rise to the occasion. I don't know how many are left in the well.
Next man up, and the next man is getting a little low on the totem pole.
Yeah, but Chris Board, not a season-ending injury,
no.
So that's important to know. Just a minor knee issue week to week.
But certainly, I'm jumping on the Jabril Cox train. I'm all on it. I'm all aboard.
Absolutely.
I am so excited to see what this kid can do.
And it's fun to watch. It's great to see these young guys coming up, and this kind of experience, and again, that big C word, the confidence, when it comes to these Bison football players at such an early stage, it only benefits them at the end of their career, when we start to see them making a play for like the NFL someday.
That should be, no, it could happen. That could happen for old 42 there on the Bison linebacking core. Let's go back out to the Fargo Dome parking lot. Mike Morkin ready to give away a few more gift cards. Mike?
All right, we're back out in the tailgate section, and gentlemen, you've got the pressure on. I just earlier in the show talked with a couple of ladies. They both answered the questions correctly, so the pressure's on, okay? Your name?
Tom Schockman.
Tom, okay, and yours?
Chuck Rogers.
Both of you from Fargo?
I am.
I'm from Brainerd, Minnesota.
Okay, so here we go. Tom, I'm going to go with you. This is for a chance to win either a True Blue Social Club $50 gift card or a $50 gift card at Lucky's 13 Pub. Ready?
Ready.
This former Bison was drafted in 1985 by the New York Giants in the second round. Was it Stacy Robinson or Dave Pepcorn?
Stacy Robinson.
Stacy Robinson, is he correct?
Yes.
He is correct. Very well done. True Blue Social Club $50 gift card. Way to go, Tom. All right. Usually the second one's a lot tougher. There we go.
I think the answer is Tom Schockman, isn't it?
This former Bison was selected in the first round in 2016 by the Philadelphia Eagles and is currently the team's starting quarterback. Is it Carson Wentz or Carson Daly?
That would be Carson Wentz.
Is he correct? Did you think that was a tougher question?
That was pretty tough.
That was pretty tough. For him, yeah. Chuck, you win a $50 gift card from Lucky 13's Pub. Thanks for playing. Thanks for coming around, and let's take it back to the studio.
Thank you very much, Mike. Hard-hitting trivia questions there as we are getting you set for Bison football just 5 minutes away on the Coors Light countdown clock. We'll wrap up the pregame show right after this.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Well, let's go out to the Dome one final time here in the pregame show. Get the guys' final thoughts. Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, guys. For me, I really want to watch number 44, Brett Taylor, for Western Illinois. He is outstanding. He averages 14.5 tackles a game. When you look at all 6 games, that equals 87 tackles so far this year. Now, add a comparison there and look at North Dakota State's top 3 tacklers. They don't even add up to 87 total tackles for this year. Look at last year, 14 games for NDSU. Their leading tackler was MJ Stumpf. He had only 85 tackles all of last year. Brett Taylor has 87 tackles for the Leathernecks. I want to see how it's done. Brian, to you.
All right, thanks, Ryan. I think my final thoughts going into this game is seeing how Western Illinois handles this environment. The Leathernecks are one of the most penalized teams in the FCS, worst in the Valley, almost 78 yards a game. That's one of those things that could come back to bite you in this hostile atmosphere. We'll see how the Leathernecks take care of that today.
My final thoughts for this week is a continuation of last week. Everyone we talked with concerning NDSU said the biggest takeaway from the game at Youngstown, we didn't panic. The Bison didn't panic when they were behind. They didn't panic when YSU scored to tie it. They didn't panic in overtime. And Western has an offense that likes to go downfield, and when they hit some, the Bison won't panic.
All right, thank you very much, guys. The last thing that I want to put out there is third down conversions, and I think that this is going to be a game where it's strength on strength. North Dakota State is converting 51% of their third downs on offense while only relinquishing 28% on defense.
Okay.
Western Illinois, 44% on offense, and they're only giving up 30% on defense. So who breaks here? That, I think, is what's going to determine this game.
Well, and my final point, I said it at the beginning, those fans. The role that NDSU, Bison Nation, the Fargo Dome can play in this situation, and a big part where they have a say in it is on those third downs and what they're able, the havoc they're able to create for that Western Illinois offense.
Should certainly be a fun one between North Dakota State and Western Illinois. We will see you right back here at halftime. For now, it is time to get you out to the Fargo Dome. Brian Shaw, Lee Timmerman, Ryan Gelner on the call. Blind Joe, let's hear it. We'll see you at halftime.